All right, so back to 2020. I became a leftist again, and I wrote that based on a true story book. And in it, I basically kind of described like there's a theory in complexity theory that the more diversity you have, the better. So, like if you have, and it's not just like diversity of opinion, but the idea was, and I learned this from a teaching company course from a guy who looked kind of like he was kind of ethnic. He's saying that like if you have black people and white people and women and Asian people, and you have different diverse group, it in complexity theory that actually helps in synergy and the creation of new ideas and stuff. So he's basically saying that diversity is good, and I wanted to espouse that diversity is good. But again, did I really believe that, or did I have an agenda? And I think I had the agenda because I saw myself as Jewish and I was anti-white, and like I said, like things triggered me during the COVID, like the people talking about Holocaust as a hoax and stuff like that online. And it was, like a white woman saying that and stuff like that. And I always saw the white people as the biggest threat. So I went back to being a leftist, kind of anti-white. And just some other examples of that was like when I was writing about the shoot away machine, how it messed up my shot. I was saying, I was kind of trying to make out my dad and my grandpa to be the problems because my dad told me to do the wrong thing and all that. And they got the shoot away machine and tried to make things happen. I wanted to make it out like, because they're white. And, my grandpa's whole thing was like, I work hard. So my dad's like, oh yeah, just get the shoot away machine and work hard and shoot 500 shots a day. And that messed me up. And I wanted to kind of insinuate it's because they're white guys and they didn't know what they're doing and they're not natural. Now, I remember during the COVID thing, there was like this like black woman, she's like writing online. She's like, pretty soon all the unnatural people on the earth are going to be gone. Like we're going to get rid of them, all the unnatural people. And she's kind of suggesting, the white people, maybe even like Arabs or people who basically everybody who's not black. She wants to just annihilate all the non-black people. And that's what I wanted. When I was a leftist, I always wanted that because I think it's because I saw myself as a Jew. I saw myself as more of a person of color. And I always, like I said, I always saw the black people as the best, the darker, the better. And I wanted the black man to just overtake the whole world. But I did like, brown people and stuff, but for me, the darker, the better. That's the way I was my whole life. But so, I went back to that. But again, a part of the reason was because I thought that this is what my grandpa wanted, because my grandpa was talking about, transcend dualistic software, transcend the ego. And I'm like, okay, transcend dualistic software. Let's all mix. That's the way I thought. I thought that's what he meant. But later I would discover more. I'll do more research with my grandpa, talk to my grandpa more, and I would understand that that's not what he meant by the flow. But at this point, I still kind of saw it that way. Now, like one of the things that my grandpa taught me was like the story of the prodigal son. The prodigal son goes out and he eats pig and he does sinful things, but then he comes back and the father accepts him and he almost loves him more than the son that never left. And the idea is he became more enriched. He expanded his awareness, so he's more susceptible to the flow, right? And so I wanted to see the good is bad and the bad is good. Like, oh, the bad guy was really good. But again, it's because I always wanted to see the black people as good and the white people as bad, because I saw myself as Jewish and I wanted the black people to overtake the white people. So I wanted to see like the good is bad and the bad is good. The bad is actually closer to the flow, because then if you get into the bad, you can expand your awareness more. Whereas if you're just in the good and you're just in conformity, you're not going to expand your awareness as much, right? So I wanted to invert everything. And but let me think about what else I want to talk about with that. But yeah, so basically I became a leftist again, and then I started talking to people and making like podcasts, and again, my grandpa taught like all that matters is how hard you work. It doesn't matter, don't worry about your genes, like don't worry about that stuff. It's all that matters how hard you work. So I would talk to people and I would just be like, it doesn't matter your race, because again, my agenda was to mix everybody. That's what I wanted. And let me think what else. But I'll kind of just talk about so my grandpa wasn't teaching me, so I was writing these books because I was thinking I'm going to appeal to my grandpa and he's going to start teaching me again, because he's going to see that I transcended dualistic software. But I didn't really transcend dualistic software. Really, I had an anti-white agenda, and I had a predator-prey orientation toward white people. But so, and yeah, I wanted to make the white women think that, like, when I was talking about the seeing like the black man is more natural, and trying to insinuate my dad and my grandpa, seeing them as the white guys who are evil and they messed up my shot and they abused me, right? And I wanted to basically make white women think like, oh yeah, the black man's more natural, and like the hippie way of looking at things, like, the white man, he's the problem on the earth. That's what I wanted, and so let me think what else. So and then also, like I said, I was still kind of anti-religious, but I didn't really quite understand my grandpa's teaching. So my grandpa taught that the flow, my grandpa tried to make everything more rational. I don't know if it's because I made fun of him when he was more spiritual back in the day, because I was kind of wanted to make him think, oh, you're stupid if you believe in astrology and that type of stuff, because I want to see myself as irrational. But my grandpa was saying that he didn't like the flow is, he said it, the flow is like what you do is he said contemplation is a passion for comprehensivity. Okay. And that's the fourth quadrant. My fourth quadrant was contemplation, passion, flowing, knowing. And he was saying that, so the flow is when I guess, but my grandpa could articulate it better, but you get a lot of ideas, you get a lot of knowledge. And then my grandpa would say the synergy of all those ideas come together and they create something greater than the sum of their parts, something that you wouldn't expect. But again, it happens a lot, my grandpa would say, when you let go, like, as Einstein said, you exhaust all resources. And then when eating an apple, when you let go, the answer taps you on the shoulder. And it's the idea of you let go. You transcend the body. You transcend rational thought. You transcend reason, logical thinking. And then the truth, then you can be hit by the truth. Like what my grandpa would say, Einstein's equals MC squared, which is beyond rational resolution, beyond rational comprehension. But it comes to him as a result of the synergy of all of his examinations and all that, right? So the idea is, my grandpa would say, you just want to immerse yourself and gain as much knowledge as possible and study and all this, and then you can be open to inspiration, to the flow, and the inspiration is something greater than rational thought, right? But my grandpa would say you don't want to attach yourself to any beliefs, right? So, but again, this is like, but it's not very supernatural. It's very like rational, right? And basically my grandpa, like, but then this is the thing, is I started reading Dr. Horror's book, and Dr. Horror wasn't saying that God was energy like my grandpa said. I always thought that my grandpa was very naturalistic in that manner, but Dr. Horror was saying God is cosmic love intelligence, infinite love intelligence. And I was like, there's an intelligent aspect to it. And that's the way I always saw it. I always saw, because with the quadrant model, there is some sort of divine structure that allows, I think, for synchronicities, for other divine components. But my grandpa thought synchronicities was magical thinking. He thought the quadrant model was rational thinking. I don't think my grandpa understood reality, because there is that magical component of the quadrant pattern, and that's a more intelligence aspect. But my grandpa, he wanted to see things more, it's very more rational. Just everything is energy and stuff. But I don't think that he understood reality. So, as I said, my grandpa stopped teaching me, but then I think, my grandma made him start teaching me again. So I started studying with my grandpa again, but then, I remember I read to him this thing by Adorno, who was like I think he was a half Jewish guy. And he wrote this book about like the authoritarian mindset. And he was talking about Nazis and how they tend to be authoritarian and very family oriented and stuff. But my grandpa thought that he didn't like that, because he said that, calling someone a Nazi, he said that's dualistic software, right? That's it's self-judgmental. So, but like, here's another example of one of my grandpa's teachings. Like, I was talking to, or one of my friend was saying that he thought that women, he was like, all women are so-and-so. And I asked my grandpa, what do you think about when my friend said all women are, I forget what he said, like all women are delusional. I forget what he said, but my grandpa was like, well, that's judgmental. He said, but I was like, well, what if it's true? What if it's a discernment? But he's like, well, he says it with emotion. He says it with emotion and with attitude, and therefore it's judgmental. If you say it with emotion and attitude, then it's self-confirmatory. It's confirming the illusion of the separate self. Okay, so I'm confused, and I'm trying to understand my grandpa's teachings at this point. And I remember I played to my grandpa a song by Snoop Dogg. It was it was a song, one of his songs, like, it ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. Guess who's back in the motherfucking house with the fat for your motherfucking mouths. You know, that song, very lewd, very vulgar, right? And so, but remember, my grandpa he taught me that there is no self, there is no other. Relationships are an illusion. So I'm thinking, well, you know, the good is bad and the bad is good. At least Snoop Dogg, you know, he could get himself in trouble and he's acting bad, but you know, the being bad and not being in conformity can get you closer to the flow, because at least he might get himself in trouble. You know, I'm trying to follow my grandpa's teachings, right? And I'm thinking to my also, like, relationships are an illusion. Maybe Snoop Dogg's actually closer to the truth by treating women like he doesn't give a shit, like he's not attached to the women, huh? He's not attached, and maybe even Snoop Dogg is closer to the flow. That's what I wanted to believe, because again, I wanted to see the black people as good and the white people as bad. Like, I wanted to be like, yeah, and you know, the white people who sing like love songs, like I love my wife, you know, nice happy things. I was like, no, that's based off an illusion. That's self-confirmatory. Relationships are an illusion because there is no self in other. So maybe Snoop Dogg is better. But I played the song for my grandpa, the Snoop Dogg song that's very vulgar, and my grandpa was like, he said he was very disappointed and very disconcerted by the song. And I was like, but grandpa, isn't relationships illusions? And my grandpa was like, he said that what Snoop Dogg was expressing was impersonal. But now this is the thing though, my grandpa would be like, well, it's not necessarily because Snoop Dogg is black. It, you know, it could be environment and stuff like that, right? Same thing with like women, right? It could be environment. So we don't know, but he's saying that it's very impersonal. He said it's impersonal consciousness and predatory consciousness, where you use women for just pleasure, and that's very self-confirmatory and very restrictive of the consciousness. Just seeking pleasure in entertainment and almost, yeah, predatory, sexual, offensive mode of being. So my grandpa was like, he said that he was very disconcerted and very saddened. He like, I don't know if he said saddened, but I forget the word he used, but it really, he did not like hearing that Snoop Dogg song. So, but you know, because I didn't quite understand his teachings, like, but I wanted to believe the good is bad and the bad is good. And also, you know, because, you know, if you're bad, you have more potential to get in the flow. And maybe Snoop Dogg recognized that relationships are an illusion. But my grandpa was like, okay, but he's not in the transpersonal consciousness. Yes, Snoop Dogg might have been in impersonal consciousness. Someone saying like a love song might be in the interpersonal consciousness, where at least it's not predatory and not hurting the other person and hurting yourself. And it's less of a less narrow consciousness. But my grandpa was saying it's not transpersonal though. Transpersonal consciousness is focused on, you know, mutual participation in projects larger than yourself, where you lose yourself. It's an inquiry in transcendence of the self. And he was like, and my grandpa was saying, no, Snoop Dogg in that song definitely is not transcending the self, not transcending the ego. So basically I'm learning from my grandpa and all this stuff. But again, I didn't quite understand my grandpa's teachings, and I was still within the leftist framework, and I still was in the anti-white framework. Okay. And I'm going to talk about how this ends up coming back to bite me. But then, like I said, I was trying to get in touch with Malik's dad, Kenny, because I wanted my basketball videos of when I was younger, because I want to study my basketball videos. I want to study the swag flow. I want to study all that stuff. So I get in contact with him. But then at first Malik said that he had them. But then I get in contact with Malik, and then Malik said that his dad was kind of going crazy and he didn't have them. His dad had them. So I ended up calling his dad, but then I was like, I was like really upset. So then but I told Malik, I'll give your dad money if he can get me the DVD. So then Malik calls his dad. Now Malik was telling me, he was like, he said he didn't believe me that the shoot away machine is what messed up my shot. And I was like, it was. And he was like, no, man, a lot of people who shoot on shoot away machines, but he was thinking about the gun. And I was like, no. And I explained to him how the shoot away did mess up my shot, and explained to him how my dad tried to fix it and told me to do the wrong thing. And then he was like, okay, he kind of understood what happened. But I ended up getting in touch with Malik's dad, and I ended up having Malik's dad stay with me. But I already talked about this before. He was acting really crazy we ended up getting in a fight. But at the same time, though, like I said, yeah, we ended up kind of getting in a fight, and he was acting too crazy, and I ended up getting a few cassettes, but not all my cassettes, and that is really difficult. Like, for all I really wanted from the very beginning, it was to get my basketball videos and just play basketball, get basketball videos, study the swag flow, fix my shot and all that stuff, and then and say swag flow and get back into basketball. I've wanted this from the very beginning. This is all I wanted. And like I said, if my mom and dad would just help me from the beginning just to get my basketball videos. But like when I was with Kenny, I was trying to call my mom and dad, call my mom to have her help me. But, again, I think a part of the reason why Kenny was treating me bad was because Kenny was told by my mom and dad that I had schizophrenia, which I don't, and so he thought that he could mistreat me, but I don't have any mental illness. Doctor said I don't have any mental illness. So I think that didn't help. And like I said, for years, I was trying to talk to my mom. I would call my mom and I'd say, Mom, can I please see you? No, we're never going to see you. Can I talk to Dad? No, we're never going to talk to you. Why don't you just get a fucking life? Why do you care about your mom and dad? And I'd be like, Mom, I really want to see you guys. She'd be like, she says, a lot of people have moms and dads who won't see them. And I'm like, yes. And a lot of those people end up having problems. It's not healthy to not be able to talk to or see your mom and dad. And my mom would be like, and people don't believe me, but like my friend Seth, he started listening to my mom when she talks to me. My mom hasn't said happy birthday to me since college. She's never happy to hear from me. It's a hostility that she has toward me. It's a hatred. She thinks I'm schizophrenic. So if I tell my mom, I discovered Theory of Everything, can I please get your guys' support? My mom be like, you're a fucking schizophrenic loser. You're a fucking freak. We're never going to talk to you. We're never going to see you. So, and there's no love, there's no compassion ever from her. If I ever talk to her, there's no happiness to hear from me. She never, like my friend said, he's heard my mom. He said she's never asked, how are you doing? She doesn't give a shit about me. She fucking has thrown me to the side, and it sucks, dude. And, from the very beginning, all the crazy stuff wouldn't have happened, I don't think, if they threw me to Kauai. I discovered Theory of Everything. They didn't believe it. They threw me to Kauai. I wanted to talk to my mom and dad. My grandpa's like, well, Ryan really wants his independence. They misinterpreted that to completely throw me aside, not talk to me. I wanted to talk to them. I wanted to get support, but, they haven't talked to me. And it was on Kauai that, I just wanted to get my basketball videos from the very beginning. That's all I want is my basketball videos. Even right now, that's in the back of my mind. I want to get my basketball videos. And, it hasn't helped. So, like, when Kenny came over, Kenny talked to my dad on the phone, apparently. And, my dad won't talk to me. He won't see me, and then other people like Kenny. So if your dad and mom are not seeing you or talking to you, then Kenny's not going to treat me any better. It sucked, dude. For the last 15 years, I haven't talked to or seen my mom and dad, and I've been trying to, so I just want to get my basketball videos, and then that backfired. We ended up getting in a fight, an argument, because Kenny was kind of going crazy, and and I didn't get my basketball videos that I wanted. And I felt like a part of the thing was, I was thinking like maybe he doesn't want to, because I had the most swag flow out of everybody. Maybe he didn't want to give me the videos because he might have thought I had more swag flow than his son, or his son got the swag flow from me, or, I didn't know why, but it seemed, he didn't give me the basketball videos, and we ended up getting in an argument. And I was upset about that, and then he ended up leaving, and then he ended up, it was tragic. That's what I wanted from the very beginning, is just to get the basketball videos. And then, and at that point, my grandpa had stopped talking to me, because what happened was, my grandma died, and apparently, and I went to see my grandma and grandpa. And my grandpa and I got in an argument like usual, because I wanted to see my dad. And I was telling my grandpa that I wanted to see my dad, and my grandpa's didn't help me see my dad, and we got in an argument. And then, he stopped teaching me again. He said, the only reason why I was teaching you is because your grandma made me teach you. So my grandpa stopped teaching me for years again. So again, I was isolated, alienated. I just want my basketball videos. I just want to get back into basketball. But I'm isolated. My grandpa's not teaching me anymore. And I was still confused. I still didn't understand the flow. I still didn't understand this stuff. And my grandpa wouldn't teach me anymore. and my mom and dad wouldn't talk to me or see me. So it's bullshit.